trying to talk to my wife into being live with me. She won't go for it. Look at this. She knows a lot about tigers. Oh, man. I had full anticipation of doing the live stream out in the barn. I was out there, lights are on and everything. I got to go out there afterwards, but I got real cold real quick. It is, what was it? Didn't they say something like with the wind chill, it was like negative 15, 20 or something for, maybe it's 25 for Friday night. And it's getting cold. What's going on, Alan? Oh, goodness. And I got to drive further north. What do you think the weather's going to be like out there? It might not be as bad, though, like because we have Lake Erie somewhat by us, and we get that lake effect kind of thing. I think the air travels across and makes everything super chilly. But somebody can go ahead and shoot Phil the groundhog for saying 6 weeks. Hello, everybody. Thanks for stopping in. But yeah, trying to get the cart buttoned up for the trip Saturday morning to go up to the Northeast Kart Expo. I gotta start. I started gathering a couple things around, but gotta make sure I got all my equipment and everything, which is AKA my phone and maybe mic and stuff like that. I probably just wander around with the cell phone. I really, I didn't know this existed. The GoPro Creator Series is really set up for vlogging and stuff like that. And I thought, man, that would be absolutely trick for the racetrack and JC Specialties, things like that. It's maybe eventually here. Too much snow in the south, right? I tried to watch that. Hello. I tried to watch the Clash last night, and man, it was sleeting. That was crazy. It's like I do feel bad for you guys. I know you're not prepared for it. I know you're not used to it. This is normal garb for us Northerners. We just, between October and say March. You can wear a sweatshirt and or more all the time. My wife's doing stuff. And my dog is patiently awaiting her to not give him anything. But yeah, it's pretty chilly. I'm over it. Although I think I looked in the forecast and I think that I saw some 30s. Now you might say, hey man, 30 is still pretty cold. Well, it's better than my water freezing. We gotta, so when I bounce out of town here, we gotta crack open the hot water. So it's only the sink that is, the lines run way too close to the stone wall. So those lines freeze, and okay, the cold water froze, the first time. It's like, yeah, par for the course. That kind of happens every year. I can't seem to get enough insulation there. It's a crawl space, so trying to get heat tape is crazy. But then the hot water froze last weekend. It's like, I guess it's not running through there. So yeah, it's cold. So what's going on? Not much anything going on racing-wise. I see that a whole bunch of Southern races got canceled due to the snowfall in the Carolina. Like, I don't know if it's record, but it's been, I thought I read or saw somebody talking about it's been 20 years since that kind of snowfall has hit like the Carolinas. Once a year, not every year, but Florida usually gets hit like, some fairly cold weather. My old man is sure to report to me anytime it drops below like 40. And he's just like, I moved down here to get away from this crap. Wow, Evolution Speedway was a bitter show. Oh, I'm sure. That's the coldest I've ever run in temp-wise was Possum Kingdom. I can't even tell you what year that was, circa 2010. I don't know, 2012, somewhere in there. Anyway, we're down there for the Fred Jackson Memorial Race, and we started the engines, and it was 19 degrees in South Carolina that day. And obviously I'm from the north, and I was just like, boy, I came down south thinking it was going to be warm. Hey, Rylan, what's going on, man? Yep. Yeah. So I'm out there. I'm doing something cool. I don't want to spoil the surprise. Well, it's not really. Well, I guess it's a surprise. I got a video coming up here next couple weeks that I'll be doing on something that I received yesterday. I'm currently putting that together out in the barn, which is difficult because after about 10 minutes, well, I had to shoot the video. I had to shoot this weekend's video. I came home, did worked out, bounce out to the barn to shoot the video. So at least I have the footage in my phone. So I have, whether or not I get to editing it today or tomorrow, but at least I have it in my phone to edit. I could, possibly do it at last minute Larry and wait till Saturday night when I'm in the hotel room. I could sit down and just edit and get that done and, post it up for launch on Sunday. But I could have been out there 10, maybe 15 minutes, and I couldn't feel this thumb and like this pointer finger. And I'm like, what? It is bitter out there. I had all intentions. I was like, oh, it was probably a 30-degree day. I'm like, yeah, if this maintains, I'm just gonna go ahead and have the live stream out in the barn and be able to tinker kind of on what I'm just doing then. But that did not work out in my favor. But yeah, so that's. I got New Hampshire going on this weekend, so that should be pretty cool. I don't know how many posts or anything like that I'll make from there. Maybe I'll do. Maybe I'll just do some update. If I get to meet some people, and I'm kind of looking forward to. I raced against Monk Newsom, super heavy. He is a factory pilot for Hermie Sadler Racing for the Premier. And he's supposed to be there. I'm really looking forward to meeting him. Just in general, like. You hear these names. I raced against him last spring, and he lapped me. So in the super heavy class, but I never actually got to meet him. So it would be, I think, I'll just go up and introduce myself, and spark up a conversation with him. But yeah, what's going on, Bill? What is going on? Not much. I tell you, it's finally out of the deep freeze. Oh, jeez, lucky we are not. That I just saying. I think I saw the screenshot, or maybe it was a weather winter. Say that again. Winter weather warning. Yeah. I think it was like negative. I want to say negative 20 or negative 25 wind chill factor up here. So yeah, but yeah. I honestly don't know. I think just cold. I didn't see anything about snow. Now, I don't know what it's going to be like because I got to travel across Vermont, and like my coworker is from Vermont, upper northern part of Vermont, and he goes up there and visit family and everything. And he says you're going to be boogieing right along in New York, and then you're going to hit Vermont, and it's going to be just like, he says, lack of better term, goat paths. It's going to be tight turns and everything. But as long as, roads are fairly clear, I can deal with the cold. I'll be in my truck. I'll have heat on. Cool. No problems there. But, that as long as the weather stays away, honestly, my truck tires are not the best for winter. There's these big luggy, I got 20-inch, cool rims, fuel rims. Nice. I bought the truck that way. They look cool. They ride like poo, and they sound like poo, and there's not much tread. Well, there's tread on them, don't get me wrong. They're legal, but not great for snow. Sorry if no one know I'm in Wisconsin. Yeah, that's I was accused of being from Wisconsin one time because apparently my accent. I think I've talked about that before. Us Northerners. We're the closer we are to Canada, we have a little bit of the Canadian Canada twang to our voices or something. Somebody thought I was from Wisconsin, and I was just like, oh, I'm from New York. Just don't talk like a New Yorker at all. Been then all last week. We're on the weather warning here tomorrow, 1 to 3 inches. Woo! That's a typical day for us. Yeah. When snow flies, it's just like it was supposed to snow today. Ah, it's only an inch, only 3 inches. You know. Where's the most affordable place to get UAS Nerf bars? Hope you're doing well, Ben. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Affordable is a relative term to what kind of income you're. I will highly suggest. I don't have a set of the UAS Nerf bars, but on the Shatter chassis, Kaler Custom Karts. I think it's Kaler. Kaler Custom Karts, the gentleman who builds the Shatter Karts, he has a whole. You can find him. I share his stuff pretty often on like Facebook and stuff. I might have the link in the drop down. I'm not quite sure. I can add it to it. But Kaler Custom Karts, Matt Kaler, he makes the reason I like them, and I think they're reasonably affordable. The way he designs them, they will fit any chassis. So if you haven't seen the design in the chassis, basically your rear, we'll call it a spud for lack of a better term, that holds where the rear bar would go in. It's a bar that goes straight out, and then there's we'll say an oversized pipe piece that the front L goes through. So the distance doesn't matter, and it allows for the body not to get bound. So there's no more having that big U that you have to tweak, and maybe it fits your cart or anything like that. This will fit any size cart, wherever their Nerf bar mounts are. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend Kaler Custom Karts. Not only, just a good dude in general. I just got a new steering wheel, so now I have two of his steering wheels that, it's a Kaler design, but it, lack of a better term, it looks like an Eliminator steering wheel, but a little more, a little fatter of a grip and a little more tight. So you can, I always end up like weird. I hold my hand up here and then I drag this side, but with the smaller steering wheel, it sits better. But Mac makes, he has billet brake calipers. He has UAS style rear rotors. He has the UAS Nerf bars. He has titanium. If you have just like a plethora of the monies. He has everything kind of, not the brake, not the caliper, but like steering wheel and UAS Nerf bars, stuff like that. He has everything in titanium, if you know that way. But his steel stuff is fantastic. I really like his design. Oh yeah, Beards. Yep, Beards does too. Yep. I don't know the prices on any of it. I guess I haven't looked into it. I do want to get some Kaler ones. I like Mac's stuff. I like his designs and thought process, and obviously he's a great dude. I just like that concept, so it'll make it easy. So I don't have to. If I have a tendency to switch back and forth on carts, just like, hey, why don't I try this one, try that, and it may come to the point where I want to run the Shatter at Nationals this year. UAS Nationals is kind of my thing, and if I get a set of his Nerf bars, then I got no problem switching them between the Scythe and then over to the Shatter. It'll fit, no problem. Outside Groove Racing show in Knoxville, 2020. Yeah, I am really looking forward to going to Keene, New Hampshire for this expo. I am not looking forward to the 6-hour drive each way. I really am not. It's the 7-hour drive to Ohio is the reason why I didn't go to Ohio. Now, I've known the promoter of this the show coming up for a long time, years and years. We've raced against each other a whole bunch, and Mr. Aaron Roof, and I see him every year at the indoor, and he's just like, man, you really got to come up. And I was like, all right, it's been a long winter. I could, I haven't done anything viewing racing, been around karts or anything like that since the Syracuse indoor. So I kind of jonesing for a little infusion of racing that isn't my PlayStation. But it's all right. I'll drive the 6 hours. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mac, super dude. You can order right online. He has the shop app. So ordering online is super easy. You can leave a note there, his contact information, all sorts of stuff. If you have any questions, don't, you got for the Super Bowl, lifelong Seahawks fan. I have the Seahawks plainly because of some of they've just decimated some of their opponents. They are on a rail, and shoot, what's his name? Oh, the quarterback. That redemption. A redemption story for him. Good for him. Outcast from the Jets. My wife's a Jets fan. Outcast from the Raiders. Raiders fan. Outcast from the Vikings after taking them to the playoffs. Outcast. And then Seattle says, we'll give you a shot. And then he goes to the Super Bowl with them. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. I don't follow football enough to know. Like, if you were to ask me what a nickelback defense is, I have no idea. I don't. I liked playing football and playing football in high school, but I have no idea. It's an entertaining to watch. Ooh, oh man, he got him and cool, but I don't follow. I have a team. My wife has a team. My wife is a bigger football fan than I am. I just wait for racing. And now that Supercross is on Saturdays, and then NASCAR is going to be back here in a week or so, I didn't cry a tear when the football season ended. Now, do I have anything against New England? Absolutely not. I don't care. I think they're playing a really good ball too. But I just saw the last couple of games there in what Seattle was very sneakily. Like they didn't seem to be on a whole bunch of people's radar, and they were just handling people. And it was just like, or handling teams. And it's just like, good for you, man. Why am I drawing a blank on the quarterback's name? That's driving me nuts. You would think that I would remember, but I don't. Every time I go to say something important to somebody, I go, and it's not there. That thing, I don't know if anybody here follows my TikTok. I put up a thing from the Fast and Furious there where he talks about ADD. He's like, yeah, that. I got that. Darnold. Sam Darnold? Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, see, popped right in there. But yeah, eagerly anticipating, got to get up at like 5 a.m. to hit the trail for this, to be up in New Hampshire, and hopefully I don't hit any weather. That should put me there about noon. I can boogie right along. I could probably make up a tick of time. I don't have a tendency to drive too fast on the road. Racing's for the track type of thing, and plus I enjoy not getting tickets. I know that everybody's like, man, I gotta go when I'm on the highway, and I understand that. I'll go along with traffic, but I don't do anything crazy, so I'll probably pick up a little bit of time. I do have to stop for gas and stuff, but I kind of factored that in when I'd be in there, be showing up for that. But then going to the Kart Expo, and then in a few short weeks here, I think it's the 27th, I'll be going down to JC Specialties and doing their open house. Going down and hopefully doing some interviews and stuff. I talked about this before. I don't know what kind of interviewer I'm going to be, or who's going to be on board with having a conversation with me, or at least, talk. I don't want anything extra special out of them, JC Specialists. But I thought it would be a cool dynamic to do that, to talk with some people, for content for the channel. But, and man, if I could technically afford to buy that GoPro Creators Edition there. Technically I could, but it would put me in a bind as far as buying kart parts, and I'm not sure I'm willing to do that. My cell phone works pretty darn good for, putting myself in that kind of pinch. I don't want to start off the season behind. I've done that before. I've spent all my money before, like the first, or near all of my money before the first race, and then it's just a scramble all race long. I like to have a little kart racing nest egg sitting there at least to afford gas and entry and stuff like that. And, everything else I can make do with what I have. I think a lot of people are in the same kind of predicament I am. Before, I know I'll probably remind you of this at the end of the video. The Sunday's video is going to be on bearings. It's more so the video and the information I put out there is more directed towards a newbie who's never done it before. I wanted to get, a dad coming in, a mom needs to understand, hey, I need to clean some rear axle bearings. What am I looking at here? Besides just replacing them, which you can do, what you're looking at, what is the process in order? And then at the end of the video, I put in some thoughts of how often, what you should do, some theories about, what kind of lubricant, this and that. I there's a bunch of information in there, but I don't super concentrate on the numbers. I don't get upset if a video doesn't do that great. But when I did the, where to pin the rear axle video last week, it did fairly well. Especially for this time of year. This is a downtime of year where, people are, they're at home, they're on their cell phones, but they're not consuming a lot of race content. At least my race content, or, what the platform that I use. So it did surprisingly well. And I was like, hey, that's pretty good. I like that. And it just got me thinking, I really need to reel back sometimes my opinions on WKA or, this going on or that going on. Not that I'm not very clickbaity. I don't do usually the hot topics. Occasionally I'll do one, but I'm not into that. I want to be aware of everything that's going on, but I don't want to rely on drama to drive video choice. I still want it to be educational channel, and I need to, occasionally do, things that are designed specifically for the beginner racer. For somebody just coming in that doesn't understand, they're not mechanically inclined. Like, I don't understand, how do you take this apart? Or do you, what does the inside of a bearing look like? Here you go. This is kind of what you're looking at. That came out for the rear bearings 2026. What do you think about the new seal savers that came out for the rear bearings 206 and 207? I like it a lot. Matter of fact, I make mention of it in this video that I probably should get some. I reference it in the video. I am notoriously bad at bearing care. Notoriously in my own mind, because I should do it more often. I'm just either ADDing all over the place, or I'm being lazy and don't do it. I improve my situation by taking my rear axle out of the cart before I wash it, so they are no longer subject to water. And I do, do my part to spray them off, as best I can and everything. But I spent years not doing much of anything, and it was terrible. And I fell into that trap because of all the horsepower that I ran. That parasitic, I mentioned that the parasitic loss that you have happen when you're running clone, Predator, Ducar, whatever it is, lower horsepower engines. That matters. When you have 70 horsepower on board, you don't really notice it. As long as your rear axle turns and you don't feel like a ton of bind in it, send it. And that's how, pretty much how I did things. And you can do it there. That way, you eat up bearings. Maintenance is definitely a thing, and it definitely helps, especially with the lower horsepower engines. But yeah, I like it a lot. I should order some if I ever think of it, but squirrel. You have been doing a great job, man, for the sport. Keep doing what you have been doing. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. That's it. Aside from doing the basics and everything, I just want to help. Like I said, this is kind of the down time of the year. My DMs aren't as full as they usually are, but I really try and be as responsive as possible. I get emails, maybe a couple a week. Sometimes a couple of weeks, sometimes, none a week. But I get some emails. I definitely get messenger, questions and this and that. And I try and be as responsive, as helpful as possible. Never, ever claim to know everything. I just try and work through it. If I don't understand it completely, I offer this. You could think of it this way. You could think of it that way. You might want to try this. You might want to try that. They're with everything. I love the word variables because there are variables. There's variables in the way you care for bearings. There's variables in the way you what you do to adjust a chassis. As long as I can talk through it, I think that it helps somebody understand, because I know the purpose of just do it this way. We figured it out. I understand, but my brain wants to know why. And if I can talk through the why, I think it will help other people that may think like I do. Like, I get what you're saying, but why does that happen? And if I can have a conversation with somebody, or at least put it into a video form, that this is what somebody said, this is my understanding of it, and this would be because of this. And then do the best I can to try and get the nuts and bolts of things. It's just everything in my brain. I try and simplify everything so it is easier to understand. And then I do what I can to convey that. It's very hard because I talk a mile a minute, and trying to get all those simplistic thoughts translated simply, very difficult. Yeah, we are both from Wisconsin, Corey and I. Awesome. Yeah, that's, I've been out to, the furthest I've been now is, I've been to Colorado, but I was 13 years old, and I went out to visit my aunt out there in Denver. And the furthest I had been out there before this past year, I went to Lazowski Speedway in Missouri, right? I think it's Missouri. And then I went to Iowa for the Grand Nationals just this last September. And then I've been all up and down the Eastern Seaboard. I've been to Mississippi and Georgia and all that. Yeah, I actually have a little bit of hair growing back. I didn't shave my head this week. It's cold. It wasn't a great idea to go bald during the winter. But yeah, Ohio, where I've raced in. Have I raced in Kentucky? I don't think I've raced in Kentucky. I've raced in Tennessee before. Yeah. Racing quite a few states. It's I always like it where, people say, hey, where have you raced? And it's just like, man, I've raced a bunch of places, like, maybe not as extensive as some people. They go everywhere. There's people that live out, now east. I'm thinking of like Renee Angel. She's from the Northwest. She moved to the east, and then she drove back to the Northwest to go race the BK race. This she's done it a couple times, but that's some heck of traveling. People have been in Arizona and stuff like that, and it's just like, it's quite impressive. But even for where I'm located, I'm in the top right corner-ish of the United States. I've been to a fair amount of tracks, up and across a little bit. Just I haven't raced any further than Iowa or Missouri. I don't know which one's further that way. It might be Missouri. I think that was 18 hours or something like that all the way out there. But I was a passenger for that ride. I did not have to drive at all. That was pretty nice. And I also watched the main. I've watched a couple Grand National mains. When the best of the best show up, there was a string there where I made some mains in the Grand Nationals, and I finished 5th in GKK. That was but that was my style. I mean, I came from a big fast track, so big fast track. Yep. I made the main in Dumplet Valley. I made the main in Jasper. Hunterstown, I made it, and then I missed it. It's been there twice. But yeah, hopefully Morrison, Tennessee, I make it. if it is in fact a track that takes that likes the Burris 33s, I know a little something about the Burris 33. Hopefully, I can nail tires. Hopefully, everything motor wise stays intact, and I can do that. I like fast tracks. Bull rings are fun. Don't get me wrong, and we never really. The Grand Nationals, I don't know that they'll ever be held on a super small track. I think that as chaotic as, say, a 5th mile is, with all the horsepower that we have, that if we ran on anything, 8th or less, not only could you not fit 20 carts on it, you would be hard pressed to do that. It'd be chaotic. It really would. Not only closing rates so fast, you're on a small track, you're ripping off such fast lap times, but the leaders are going to catch the tail end of as soon as we go single file, you start double file, hey, it doesn't work out, something happens, you go single file, the last place cart, whether it be 16 or whether it be 20, is already a half a lap down. And the leader is going to be into lap traffic, and then all heck is going to break loose. I can foresee that. I've been to enough bull ring shows that within open that I know all too well that everything can be going swimmingly, and one slip up, somebody tries to get a run on somebody pinching somebody down, and because you're so close together, yes, maybe the danger of wrecking, you're not hitting as hard because you're not going as fast, but the closing rate it's so fast, so incredibly fast. I want to say that the little track that I run, AMS, I think track record is held by Dan Guild, and it was like a 7.4 or something like that. That is, I mean, we run 9s in a clone. Dude, that's moving. Just absolutely moving. And could you imagine, the people showing up to that track, say 14 to 16 of them even on that track. I mean, we've done it, and we raced, and it can be done, but boy, things go wrong in a hurry. You are coming to rock? Awesome. Yeah, it'll be fun. It's the thing about the Grand Nationals is now that I won't say I'm past my prime. I think that it's a dedication thing, also a money thing. I don't like to whine about that, but it is part of it. Like when Walt was my kart partner, I have said before, I had everything I could have ever wanted, and I think it showed. I did very well at a bunch of Grand Nationals and races when I had Walt behind me, but also bouncing ideas off him, and we really had a hold of things. And since I've calmed down, I picked up the channel, I'm doing this now, my focus is, it's not complete. I still see what needs to be done to be fast, but my eyes are glancing over here because I have my other responsibilities and things going on, and I'm just not hyper focused on what I should be doing. I think I could get back there. I don't think my skill set has changed all that much. My knowledge base has grown, so you would think my tire knowledge has grown. So I think that if I were to kind of hyper focus on, getting UAS and being as fast as possible in UAS, I think I have the skill set to get back to where I once was. Maybe better, who knows? But it's a dedication thing. It's just like to be fast at racing, you have to think about racing all the time almost. And it's crazy. Unless you have a lot of good people in your corner that are setting up your cart and doing tires and getting you just, that it's a dream to drive. If you're doing everything yourself, then you have to stay focused on it. And me trying to stay focused on one singular thing is very difficult now. But yeah, where I was going with that is that even though I go, like all racers, you go to a race to win the race. You go to the race to make the main. You go to the race to perform the best you can. I have now, at the point of my focus, accepted the fact that I can go, I can see my very good friends that I've known for years that I may only get to see once a year. I get to go and hang out with them and have a great time and go race. And if I don't make the main, things happen, man. But it's just, maybe it's because I'm older that winning isn't everything to me anymore. I want to do the best I can. I want to win. It's been a long time since I've been in, gotten that photo. It's been a long time since I've gotten a W. I really want it back, but also I'm willing to accept the experience is part of the win. That being at the track with my friends, having fun, getting to race for fun. That's I don't want to let that go. I did find when I was the most competitive I was in UAS, I was so focused on points. I was so focused, it made me make bad decisions. It made me choose to uproot somebody I shouldn't have. It made me dive into corners when I probably shouldn't have. That competitive side, it's that, kill or be killed type of mentality. And it's not that I don't have it anymore, but I would rather enjoy the experience and take that as a W. And then where racing falls is where racing falls. If I make the main and I do well, sweet. If I make the main and don't do well, okay. If I don't make the main, I get to watch a fantastic race. I get to watch my friends go out and have a blast, and I can root for them and watch them and be as excited as, maybe not as, but close to as excited as they are for racing. So I like going to the Grand Nationals just to go to the Grand Nationals. If you're going to go, you might as well race. Yep. If you don't make the race, I've done it a couple times, man. It sucks, but the experience is worth it. I said about Iowa this year, with the exception of my performance on track, the whole trip was a W. I got to be with my friends. Doug and Jamie went with me. I got to travel with my two best friends for over 30 years and go to a different state I'd never been to. I got to go see my racing family I hadn't seen in a year. Many of them they hadn't seen in a year. I got to, get footage and walk around, and I got to go out on track. The performance wasn't there, but I don't make those two things connect because they are, even though I was there for racing, they are separate. My experience is different from my racing. Yeah, I can, if I do well in racing, I can, that was a great experience, but I will not discount the rest of the trip, the rest of the experience, the rest of racing, because of sometimes things don't go your way. I had clutch problems. I never have clutch problems up until now. 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was when I lost chains, I had never lost a chain in a long time. Not never, but rarely ever lost a chain, and I lost like 2 or 3 that day. What are you going to do, man? Sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield. But yeah. Maybe bring the flat and the run purple plate. Nice. We will help wash tires. Yeah, I don't know who's all going this time. If my wife decides to go or if it's going to be a boys trip again, we'll see. Again, with the Norman factor, my disabled dog, he does put a kink in things, but the person who has first precedence over the trip is my wife. If my wife wants to go, she wants to take the dog, game on. If she chooses that she is going to stay home, she'd rather not. It's just a little too difficult. It is a bit much because obviously I'm a chatty Cathy. I have a heart, I disappear from the pits a lot to go converse with these friends and everything like that. And I feel bad about leaving her alone. And, it's not fair to her to do that, but it's totally up to her. If she decides to go, then my wife goes. And I don't have a tire washer. I'll be washing tires. But if by chance she decides not to go and Doug decides to go or Jamie comes up for it, whoever, I got people to... It's weird having people push my cart and wash my tires. I gotta say, it's strange. I feel out of place. I mean, it allows me, and this past year at Iowa, when I was having all sorts of clutch problems, and I went through that thing a couple times. I couldn't figure out what was going on till the end. it allowed me to work on the clutch to figure out what was going on eventually with somebody else was washing my tires and, all right, where do you want these? Where do you want these? And I could, just instruct and, all right, I want that right front, that, okay, put those on. And then, once I get this on, we'll get the clutch back on. And it made life easier. It was just very strange because I'm so used to doing everything by myself. It's, I'm self-sufficient, maybe at a fault, that I will not ask for help unless somebody, comes up and say, hey, I'm going to do this for you. And I go, oh, okay. I was going to do it, sure. I mean, oh no, twisting my arm, cut it out. I know that I've lost the way. I've talked to you guys a little bit about that. But sarsaparilla, yeah. It's local. I think it's local. I bought it up in Rochester, New York. I think it's local. Anyway, like a natural food store, and I like it's like root beer, only different. But would you consider paid crew if it meant winning? That depends on funds. If I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's product, supply and demand, if you will, if you want to use that concept. If you're willing to pay the money, if you have the money to pay, and somebody has a product to purchase and they're willing to sell it to you, whether that be labor, whether that be tires, engine, setup help, or anything like that, that's but essentially capitalism. That's that if somebody has the money, I don't fault them for it. I think that getting somebody who just is a shoe is missing out on learning. Yeah, maybe that's not their thing. Maybe their thing is to hold the wheel. So I don't hold anything against anybody doing that. Will I ever experience it? No. Will I ever be able to hire somebody to do my tires and do my setup? No. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Would it be, interesting to show up to a race and just be the driver? Maybe I've done that somewhat a little. The Pieces, Motorworks. They had me come down and maybe twice in the clone. The very first time I ever ran a clone, they did it for me. I was driving there. They handled everything. All I had to do was pilot the thing. And I came very close to running down first place before mishap happened. And then last year, Kelsey and Kyle took the reins and my tires. And, I helped, obviously, work on the cart and stuff like that. But they instructed me what to do. They were talking with me what I felt. Hey, try this. They were working tires and doing that. So I didn't pay them, but they were essentially just having me be the wheelman. And I was okay with it. I didn't hate it. It was a little strange because I'm so used to, like I said, doing everything myself that, but they're, doing everything yourself may be a bigger pain in the butt, but also to bring kind of NASCAR back up, look at Ryan Preece. Knows how to work on his stuff. Took a shot at himself, took, an extra mortgage out on his house and did this and did that. And it was able to, just try, and then goes through the JGR, that little bit there, paid ride, and then, ends up at Stewart Haas. And that was kind of a no-go and did some Xfinity stuff. And then all of a sudden he ends up at RFK and he wins the All-Star, or not All-Star race, but the Clash. Good on him. Somebody who knows how to work on their own stuff, fantastic. I love it. Like a self-made man. Good for you. Betting on yourself and winning. That is fantastic. I love it. Like I said, I didn't know if I was going back to Connecticut before, Brad gave him this ride at RFK and he made something of it. He had great finishes last year, but some bad luck, but he had some great finishes. I love that. I think there's more to be gained from understanding what you're doing rather than just being somebody who holds wheel. But proof's in the pudding. You got everybody that has a winning package, and all you got to have is somebody that can hold the steering wheel straight and know what to do with what package they're given. No fault in that. What do you think think a kart racing tech should charge for a race weekend. Reasonable for a guy who can afford a competition chassis and motor. I don't know. I have no idea. I guess to be honest, that thought has never even occurred to me. So I couldn't put a price on that. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I do not have an answer. Of all the opinions that I have on stuff, reasonable guy who can afford yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's more than I'm willing to pay because I'm cheap. Whatever number it is. See, I don't even know how that works. Like, I've never had a tire guy. I've always done my own tires, so I can't even tell you what the going rate for a tire guy is. You know, like, is it $100 a set? Is it something like that? I don't know. You know, for a race weekend, and they tell you what to do to the tires. I honestly don't know because I've always mounted, surfaced, staggered, pressurized, adjusted, wiped. It's all me. Oh, there you go. At 150, 200 for winning. Yeah, it's maybe more than tires. All you got to do is drive. Yeah, there's I don't know. Driving, being able to wheel, but somebody will pick on, and maybe I referenced it a little bit. Just be a wheelman, but if you don't know how to drive, if you do not know how to navigate what the cart is giving you, it is not just holding the wheel. You can be offered, and people have different driving styles. I don't brake heavy. I don't brake heavy in my open. I lift, and I use my brake to settle things, and then I get back to the gas as quick as I can. I'm not somebody who trail brakes a lot. I'm not somebody. I will use the rear brake to, especially in an open, to calm the rear down as I'm wide open. I'll be dancing on the brake a little bit to keep the rear under me, type of thing. But I know people who trail brake and they stay wide open and they just use the brake as a metering throughout the corner, whether it be cone or something like that. Somebody had made a comment. I didn't catch the whole live, but I did catch this comment. So the Ultimate Kart Media guys, and somebody said there are three things, and without one of those things, it is a losing deal. You driver, setup, tires. If one of those fails, then you're not going to be as fast as a person who got all three right. And driver is one of those things. You could, I think I'm a fair driver. But am I as good as a Chase Williamson, as a Shea Chavis? No, that especially not in clone racing. And arguably, Shea's probably as fast, if not faster, than I am in an open, or has been at least. Now Chase too. It's the driver is. You can have the perfect tires and perfect setup, but without the guy that knows what to do with it on the track, it's going to come up short. So, yeah. More than tires. Money shows for sure. Mostly for tires, yeah. If a bonus for wins, chassis, engine, tires, yep. Engine too. I say, I say setup, but I guess I would define that as the cart, the chassis. You got to... The one thing that's kind of nice about clone racing is you do so very little to the engine, at least in my experience, compared to an open. Yeah, you have to keep in context where I'm coming from. Tweaking carburetors, clutches, flex lengths, all the stuff that is encompassed in a two-stroke engine, coming down to a clone where it's plug in the fuel. Maybe there's some jetting involved if you know what you're doing with that. If you get certain, if you get a real heavy night or you're at a different elevation or something like that, there is that. I totally get that. But from somebody coming from the UAS world where your motor is a lot of your time, a lot of making sure that is right, that it doesn't blow up because attrition's huge in UAS. Coming down to a clone, it's just like, you got an engine guy, but it's just like, all right, aside from gearing and your clutch, your clutch hitting right and your gearing, clones just clone. Change the oil. There you go. I know there is stuff to be done to them, but in the world, versus, if you're going to do a versus thing, UAS versus clones are way easier. Yeah. You're a shifter tech. RZ, KZ, FC, RSA. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess maybe if you want to say engine things, but then, there again, I was talking about the clone stuff. And, just to simplify it, if you're into two strokes and stuff, yeah, there's a lot more to it than that. I was just, somebody had reached out about flex and explaining flex to them and what the effects of flex are. Just as a reminder, I'm sure they would have eventually figured it out, but I don't want that, especially in two-stroke world. Shorter flex length makes more power at a higher RPM, but it also makes your engine leaner. And you got to be very careful about that. Clutch engagement, stuff like that. Everything's, relative to itself. Like if you make one adjustment, you should be making another adjustment to compensate for that. And I did have somebody ask, hey, I want to get into UAS racing. And as it turns out, they really do want to go two-stroke racing, which is fine. But I always recommend like a 250 or 450 four-stroke, MX four-stroke. If you're going beyond like a clone limited or something like that, if you want to get into UAS power, I always suggest the four-stroke, and it's from a two-stroke guy, and it hurts my soul to say that. I jest somewhat. I like all horsepower. I'd drive a four-stroke if I had one, but I'm more of a two-stroke kind of guy. It's an easier transition from clone to a 450. The horsepower jumps way up. But if you were to put a stock MX 450 on a cart, you get them out, you get a shifter made up, fueling, however that's got to happen, though with the exception of those things, you get the gearing somewhat correct, you're able to shift. They're darn near bulletproof, and they come 60 horsepower out of the box. They're heavy. They're extremely heavy, especially with the transmission still connected, but they are very hard to screw up. You can stall it, but they're very hard to screw up. Whereas a two-stroke, you need to know, you got to consider at least about air density, what elevation you're at, what your temps are running, how much flex you're running, how much. There's just a whole host of things that go into two-stroke racing that, I've been doing it for so long. It's I still can make mistakes, but it's second nature to my, to know these things, make adjustments. Oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. But it's way easier to explain or to offer somebody, basically not a race winning package, but something that is very simple to understand. Get it fuel, get it shifted, get some gearing on it, and send it. That's, figure out the horsepower after that. What racing class am I talking about now? Unlimited Allstars is what I was just referencing. So, lack of a better term, high horsepower karts. We run a lot there are some kart-based engines that are winning still and doing well. Some of them came from the road course realm. A lot of them, like back in the day, 125cc sedans and even water cool stuff. Vortex and things like that. But there are some that are more recent that are doing very, very well. But taking a motocross bike engine, whether it be 2-stroke or 4-stroke, and basically strapping it up to a cart and figuring that out. I have a modified version of a YZ250 sitting over here. It doesn't have a transmission. It is on a jack shaft, so it's cartified, if that's a term. I made that up. It's cartified. Made specifically for a cart. Buller, who does Buller clutches, he builds them. It's called a Bama 250, 2-stroke realm. But then, yeah, we just take really high horsepower stuff. You can run 2 engines, Siamese them side by side. You can freight train them. There's a CC limit and a weight limit per whatever engine. So you can run a Wankel. There's only really one version that will kind of somewhat compete in the UAS, Xerio, or however you say that. There's one Wankel, but basically 2-stroke and 4-stroke, you're allowed up to 300cc 2-stroke and 510cc 4-stroke. And then kind of do what you will. For instance, my 250 2-stroke has to weigh 400 pounds. Cool. A 450 4-stroke, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it still has to weigh 430 pounds. Now, it's a heavy engine. You have a lot of 4-stroke guys that are running 450s, north of, big bores and stuff like that are running, close to 500 cc's, that are weighing in at 450 to 500 pounds on a cart. So we have a base layer of your cc limit and what weight you have to weigh. But yeah, if you run a smaller engine, you get a weight break. So if you run a 150, I think you have to weigh 150 2-stroke, you have to weigh 350 pounds. If you run a 175cc 2-stroke, you have to weigh 375 pounds. Things like that. Jack shaft and no dry clutch. Yeah, I run a dry clutch. Where in the country do we race these? Never heard of it. We're all over the place now. There are regions everywhere. Do we currently have I think we have the Western New York UAS Unlimited Allstars. There is a Pennsylvania. The biggest, the most, say it this way, the most UAS carts there are currently in Ohio, in my opinion. We're all scattered throughout the United States. But there's a few in Florida, the Carolinas, obviously. There's some in Georgia. Yeah, Tennessee. Tennessee has a really good. Tennessee area has a growing population of UAS racers. But we're everywhere. There was just a big race out in the Northwest, the Buda Kinzer Memorial Race, BK 16 was it? I think. And there was a bunch of carts that showed up there. That's all the way up in Oregon, Washington, somewhere up there. You would think I'd pay attention to this stuff, I know. But it's the Northwest. We're everywhere. Just the numbers have dwindled for a while. Hopefully we're getting them fired back up this current year. What's going on, Wingnut? This current year, our Grand Nationals happen every year in September, and the Grand Nationals moves for different parts of the country. Sometimes it's out west, sometimes it's out east. This year is going to be at Morrison, Tennessee, Morrison Speedway in Tennessee. Where was it last year? It was in Iowa last year, so it was Midwest last year. I went to Iowa in September. So yeah, we're not the biggest kart class out there. Obviously, if you have a hard time figuring out, what we are, but we're the craziest and we have the most horsepower. Well, there's an argument to make. Do we have the most horsepower? There is the Rung What You Brung crowd. They're probably even smaller, depending on what you're labeling as Rung What You Brung, in numbers as UAS is, but just ever so nutty. I mean, there's some guys that are putting on, like Polaris, snowmobile engines on their carts, and I'm like, yo, that's a lot. Other than CCs, would be too big. The 406 ATK would be a fun motor. Was an amazing air-cooled two-stroke. Nice. Yeah, and that would fall under rung what you brung, unless they have a different rule about, rung what you brung to me is the essence of rung what you brung. If the cart is safe, the CC limit, I mean, the bigger CC you go, the heavier you're going to get, the more right side weight you're going to have, the more problems you're going to have the turn. You got to be on a cart chassis. These are some of the limiting factors. The biggest limiting factor is horsepower to a 6-inch tire. That's the 6-inch rim. It can only take so much. That it has been proven, over the years that the biggest, baddest motor is not always the one that wins. Consistency and corner speed are absolute, must-haves. It's great to just right down the straight. You have to turn eventually. It's not a drag strip. So we are turning in circles. You got to figure out how to make it go around the turn. But yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that a giant, air cool. Although I did have my, I know it's a 200cc, but I had my buddy Tommy was talking about a blaster engine. It was 200cc. But as it turns out, because it's old tech, the thing only made 35 horsepower. I mean, if you were to judge my 252 stroke that's sitting over here on the low end, it's on methanol. It doesn't have a transmission. It's piped up. It's, some porting, this and that. On the low end, this is probably 60, 65 horsepower. That on a guess. By, dyno numbers, it's probably 70, maybe north of 70. Cool. That's a lot of, that's a pretty big disparity there. Water cools are cool. Yep. Okay, Southwest is mostly shifters, Rotax, sealed brakes. I wish we had laid down enduro or that kind of cart you guys have out there. Yeah, it's it's a put a rocket on a skateboard, man. It is the exhilaration of smashing the throttle with something, say, north of 50 horsepower. It's delicious. You can get, even, back in the day when we ran the air cools, the 125 sedans and the 131 sedans, the stroked, those things boogie, man. They get her done. They're not as fast as like a 250 or a 150 or 175 or whatever, but they still boogie. They're a riot to drive. Hello. Good afternoon. Y'all can't make the corner. You ain't gonna make the race. Yeah, they're a lot. And it's calmed down a bunch. Like back in the day, there used to be this, just get as much power as possible out of the things, no matter the consequences. And it doesn't work. We turn left. You have to have handling. Corner speed is king, regardless of you got 60 horsepower or 20. It's been proven time and time again that if you can hold your corner speed, your momentum will overtake somebody who's got more drag speed than you. Now, the timing has to be right. I've been in that situation. I ran against a shifter 450 my first year trying for a Grand National, and I had my little 125, and I would zip right up to his bumper, and he'd be squirrely, and then I'd start to get on my nose under him. He was, basically just hammer down, brake, that type of thing, and it would kill my momentum enough that he would just, and then I'd do it all over again. And I spent an entire B main trying to transfer into the A for that, and it did not work. So, is what it is. But I see that we are past the hour mark here, and I'm busy. I gotta get out there. I gotta get stuff done on the cart to get ready for this weekend to make sure that's ready to. It's just a showpiece, but it doesn't have to be race ready, but it's got to be ready nonetheless. Yeah, I got some stuff to do. So. I appreciate you guys coming by. I said before, video on Sunday is going to be about bearings. It's basics, but I try and make it entertaining. You know what? This bearing goes here, and this bearing. That's not me. I talk like this. This is how I am all the time. So I try and make it entertaining. I try and make it useful, and hopefully, I welcome the comments. If you think I'm nuts, if you think I'm wrong, say it, you know, be mean. Don't be mean. You know, you can call me an idiot without calling me an idiot. You know, that'd be, you could at least do that for your old buddy Ben here. But do I know of any good places to get graphics? Yes, there are a couple. I'm going to, even though I don't have their graphics, I absolutely love their graphics. I would look up Carpies, Carpys. I think it's apostrophe S. Carpies. They are out of, I think they're moving, but they're still going to be in Olean, New York. Olean. Carpies. They do fantastic work. They got like a Kraken, like a what is it called? I'm drawing a blank here. They have a Kraken as their logo. The squid looking thing there. But Carpies, they racers. Like I said, I don't have their graphics. I've seen enough of their work at the local show and what they put out. They're on TikTok, Carpies graphics, and they're on Facebook. The content they put out alone is really good, and I like the stuff they do. Everything from little tiny cars, little radio control stuff, all the way up to late models and stuff like that. They have a full sewing shop, stuff like that, all in one. I know they're moving, but I think they're can you spell it again? Carpies. Carpy''S. Carpies. It's kind of a strange name, but they do excellent work. Maybe I'll get some someday. We'll see. But yeah, Carpies is a real good one. There's other ones. Was it Go-Kart Graphics? I think that's who I have now. They were reasonable, but I can't even. They have a weird way of spelling their thing, and I can't tell you. It's out in they're out in the shop, and I don't know how to spell that. It's an abbreviation of some sort, but I'll screw it up, so I don't want to tell you that. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I would look into Carpies. They're super good people too. Everything I know about them, they're really good people. So yeah, I hope that helps. Yeah, we will see you Sunday for a video on bearings, and then we'll talk about New Hampshire next Thursday. How's that sound? That should be fun. That give me. Not like I have lack of anything to talk about, but it'll give me something to talk about. All right, guys. Appreciate you. Later.